Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, I wanted to walk you guys through my complete Ned Rig system, okay? And when I say a system, I really mean it because the Ned Rig is not just a bait that you're throwing. It is a complete system. You've got the different jig heads. You've got all the different, plastics that you can put on those jig heads. And, Z-Man really was the one that pioneered the Ned Rig. They've got a bunch of different designs as far as the Elastec baits and also a ton of different jig head designs too. So there's so many different ways that you can mix and match everything to accomplish different things. But the original Ned Rig, I haven't set anything up here, really kind of looks like this. Let me put this together real quick. Just kind of show you guys the original design that the Ned Rig is known for, or the original package. This right here, this simple, what probably started out as a trimmed down stick bait on a mushroom style jig head. That right there is a classic Ned Rig. But again, there's a lot of different designs. There's little creature baits they've designed for the Ned Rig system. There's football head jigs. There's ball head style with different companies. There's a lot of different types of jig heads on the market. So anyways, I wanted to dive into what works best for me. And the first thing I want to mention is that you can make this as complicated as you want, but I really prefer to keep things simple. I have all the tackle that Z-Man makes for the Ned Rig system. I've got all the jig heads and all the different types of Elastec baits to put on them. But I really like to focus on just a handful of the different options. So that's what I want to show you today, is exactly what I carry with me in my boat if I expect to be on a Ned Rig bite, or just want to be prepared if that kind of comes around. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to show you is the box. This right here is the box that I put all of my Ned Rig system jig heads in it. All of the stuff that I'm going to show you, including this tackle box. This is actually a pretty sweet little terminal tackle box that I've got two others for other terminal tackle. But we're going to be putting all of the stuff that we're talking about in this video in the Tackle Warehouse links in the description below. So if you want links directly to everything we're talking about, check those links out in the description. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. This right here is my jig head box for the Ned Rig. You can see I've got a bunch of different designs. Really my favorites are just the original Finesse Shrooms jig head. Okay, light wire. It's got a little, keeper. We'll pull one out here. This right here is like the gold standard, real light wire jig head, or real light wire hook. You've got that little welded on keeper there that works great with the Elastec and traditional plastics, and just that traditional mushroom head design. That right there is pretty simple, and still one of my absolute favorites for certain situations. Another one of my favorites is the Nedlocks HD. Okay, so the Nedlocks HD, heavier duty hook on there. It's still got that mushroom shaped head, and the keeper's a little bit different. It's a molded on piece of like barbed lead. Okay, but the primary thing that I like about the Nedlocks HD is that heavier duty hook. Okay, it's still finesse, but it can handle heavier line and fishing around heavier cover and things like that. Some other jig heads we have in here is the Pro Shrooms jig head. A little bit heavier duty hook, a little bit larger hook, bigger gap in general. Same welded on little keeper there, and it comes in different sizes as far as the jig head goes. And then we have some OG Finesse Shrooms here. You can see those at the top. I honestly hardly ever use those. I hate to say that, but they really haven't been used at all in the last couple of years, but just because I'm a pretty simple dude when it comes to my selection. And another one I have in here is the Finesse Football Ned's head. Oh, dropped it. This one is a football shaped head. Kind of a similar hook to, it's kind of a mix between the Pro Shrooms and the Finesse Shrooms as far as the hook. But anyways, it's got that football shaped head, and that's really good for like grinding on rock if I'm just doing kind of a dragging technique. But that is my box. That is the box that I carry with me everywhere I go for my Ned Rig. And again, I've got that tackle box in the link below, because it is a super cool terminal tackle box. So anyways, so the jig heads, fairly simple. There's still a lot of other options. You've got some like the Finesse Bullets jig that has this wide gap hook in it and everything, which is something we're going to be talking about a little bit with how I like to rig things. But really what it comes down to is I really like the original Finesse Shrooms jig head. So we're going to take one of those. So I've got pretty much every size in the Finesse Shrooms jig head. I can't tell you which size I would choose for your fishing situation. It really depends on the scenario, but I've got everything. I'm prepared for all the different scenarios that I could need the different weights for and the different colors. And then the other one that I really like, we'll put that one aside, is the Nedlox HD. Those are the two that I primarily fish with. I have a lot of success just with these two. I would say 90% of my Ned Rig fishing is with the Nedlox HD and the Finesse Shrooms jig head. All right, so we got that taken care of. So I want to show you the two baits that I primarily throw in the Ned Rig system as far as like on the Elastec bait side. So one is brand new, so I haven't thrown it that much, but it's exactly what I look for. And then the other one I've already kind of showed you, and that is the Finesse TRD. Like I said, I love keeping things simple. The Finesse TRD, or the Turd, is an excellent Ned Rig bait. It is the original design, and I really do think it is the best. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, this shape just tends to trigger something in fish that really, just gets them to bite. The stick bait category of soft plastics has been catching more fish than probably any other category of soft plastic bait in the world for a very long time. And the same thing goes for this smaller version of it, the TRD. And another thing that I really like about this style bait is you can note that there's really no appendages on it. There's no drag that this bait really has beyond just the overall, body of it. It doesn't have anything coming off of it that would slow it down or make it want to parachute down. It actually has a really nice gliding fall to it. It kind of has like a gliding spiral fall to it, which I think is a really big deal, especially in ultra clear water for like spots and smallmouth, but also largemouth too. But that fall is really, really important. And the reason why I always suggest that people use Elastec baits is because they're super buoyant. And when this bait with that jig head hits the bottom, it's pretty much just by nature going to be floating up and sticking straight up like that, or at least at an angle. Other baits will just kind of fall on their side and lay parallel with the bottom. That's not what I'm looking for this bait to do. I want this bait that on the pause, it tends to want to float up and kind of tilt in a more defensive position, or like it's feeding on something on the bottom. So, let's just keep it simple. The Finesse TRD is about as good as it gets. The other bait that, when they came out with it recently, I was really stoked on it. Again, I haven't got to fish it all that much, but I guarantee it is a fish catching machine just because of the shape of it, is the new TRD Fatties. The TRD Fatties is a kind of a improvement, or a smaller version of the Fatties Elastec bait, which is one of my favorite like shaky head baits. It's a pretty small little shaky head bait that's the same exact design, just bigger. And the TRD Fatties, man, I just think that it's got that very simple design to it. It's going to have that nice glide to it, and just overall, I think this is going to be a really, really good complement to the original Finesse TRD. So these two are definitely at the top of my list as far as the Elastec baits for Ned Rig. I want to show you guys some honorable mentions because I did mention how I do like the football shaped Ned head the Z-Man has. This one right here. This jig head to me isn't as well suited. It can work with any of the Elastec Ned Rig baits, but I really like it for something that has more of a creature bait profile. So something like the TRD Craws. This is my favorite to fish with the football Neds. The TRD Bugs is another good one. And the TRD Hogs is another one. So using this little football head on some of those creature baits, it's almost like throwing an ultra finesse football jig, right? That's imitating to a T a perfect little tiny crawfish that no bass can pass up. So like if I'm fishing an area that, I would traditionally fish a football jig, and maybe I already fished through an area, I'll pick up, this deal with, let's just go ahead and take one out, with a creature bait like the TRD Craws. I'll take this deal, this little morsel, and drag that sucker around. All right, so that thing right there is just the perfect little profile, little snack. So I really kind of think of this as more of a complement to like a jig. So I'll fish an area with a jig, a football jig, and then I'll come back if I think that there's more fish with this little sucker and pick up some extra bites. But most of my Ned Rig fishing, admittedly, is with this style of traditional Ned Rig, just keeping it very, very simple. So I'm going to show you the two different ways that I personally like to rig a Ned Rig, like just the traditional finesse TRD or the new TRD fatties, okay? The first way is just like this, with a exposed jig head. Okay, so if I'm fishing an area that is clean bottom, there's no wood, and the rocks are such that, there's not a lot of current, but you've got plenty of rocks, you're not going to snag nearly as much, and the current's not going to make you snag even more. So no wood, little current, no grass, just clean, rocky, hard, or gravel bottom, something like that. That's when I like to use the exposed jig head. Also, if I'm fishing for smallmouth and I'm fishing these big open flats and like sight casting to them with forward-facing sonar, the exposed jig head is kind of the norm, just because, it just is really easy to hook those fish. And for this situation, I really like to use the finesse shrooms, just the good old original finesse shrooms jig head. That is what I like to use with an open style jig head. And that's just because you have a light wire hook. Usually when I'm fishing it this way, I'm going to be using lighter line. So usually I'm like 6, maybe 8 pound test Seagar Tatsu. That's my primary line that I use, but you can use a lot of different fluorocarbon lines. I'll put some different price range options in the description below too, but I'm usually using lighter line. I won't go up to like 10 or 12 pound tests, especially with the finesse shrooms jig head, because that hook is really, really, really light. So you're going to run the risk of really bending out that hook. In fact, you need to make sure that even with light line, you loosen up your drag a little bit, so when you go to set the hook, the drag slips a little bit, just a little bit. So that's one way that I rig it, and I'll drag it a little bit when it's rigged this way, but normally I'm just hopping it, just real small hops, or sight casting 2 fish on sonar, okay? The second way that I like to rig my Ned rigs, and we'll use the TRD fatties for this, and this is one that I did, it's my most watched short video that I've done. When I first started fishing the Ned Rig, I just hated always having that exposed hook. So I wanted to fish it in a way that it would be weedless. And at the time, Z-Man had already already come out with the Nedlocks HD, and the finesse shroom. So there wasn't that many options. They didn't have like the pro bullets or anything like that, or the finesse bullets jig head, which is a wide gap hook that allows you to Texas rig your bait. So I kind of had to get a little bit creative, but I honestly think even though there are options that are like wide gap, Texas rig options out there in Ned Rig jig heads, this is still a better way, in my opinion. And I get a lot of comments on that short video that I did, Texas rigging a Ned Rig, saying, hey, there's better options out there. I know that there's other options, but this is the best way, in my opinion, with ElaZtech. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the Ned Locks HD, and we're going to insert that in the nose about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or so. And we're just going to go ahead and Texas rig it. We're going to turn that thing around and then just slightly dig the hook point into the ElaZtech. The great thing about ElaZtech is it is so soft and compressible that even though you don't have a lot of gap there, like a normal plastic, this would be the kiss of death. You'd hardly ever actually hook the fish unless you're using braided line and you set the hook really hard. But with the ElaZtech, you don't need the gap in the hook like you do with traditional plastics. It gives you a great hooking percentage. To me, it is better than a extra wide gap Ned Rig hook because it is so small profile, it has so little drag, and it just looks more realistic to me. You know, with the EWG, the hook comes down here and is way more apparent, gives off a different profile. To me, this is what I want. And this is an excellent way to fish around some sort of vegetation or wood. I've fished a lot of tournaments where, I wanted something real finessey to fish around laydowns and around little patches of wood and stuff like that. And also on beds, this was the deal. Okay, so using the Ned Locks HD, and the reason I like the Ned Locks HD is that generally I'm going to be using like 10 or 12 pound test fluorocarbon as my leader, and this hook is pretty darn strong for how small it is. It's a much heavier gauge wire, so it can handle that kind of pressure. So that's pretty much it. I'll be casting this around any type of a light or moderate cover, and just getting creative with it. But it has a really, really, really nice fall, which I think has a lot to do with how low profile it actually is. So I'll do that with the Finesse TRD and the new TRD Fatties. Other than that, that's pretty much it. That is my system. I'm either using the Finesse TRD. I'm going to be folding the TRD Fatties into the mix a little bit more, but I'm either exposed with the Pro Shrooms or the Finesse Shrooms jig head, or Texas style with the Ned Locks HD. That's as pretty much as simple as it gets. I want you guys to just go out there, experiment. Try to keep it simple. Just go out there, have fun with the Ned Rig system, because it is a fish catching system. If there ever was one, I think it is awesome. And it's one of those techniques that really made me fall in love with finesse fishing. I'm a power fisherman at heart, but this is one, you just catch so many fish, you can't help but love it. So anyways, guys, for all the products that I talked about today, again, the links to Tackle Warehouse and those products are in the description below. If you have any questions at all about Ned Rig fishing or any other topic, drop a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water. Trust the process.